In coming days,
the payment of tithing as fire insurance.
Travis Wingitzel. In 1979, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints came out with a new edition of the Bible that was footnoted and had the Bible dictionary and topical guide. This was followed up 2 years later in 81 with the triple combination with an index and a footnoting that ties back and forth to the Bible. And so I'm well aware of this process, as in 2000 I was approached by the supervisor in what was called then the Priesthood Curriculum Department to assist with the revision of the footnotes for the Spanish and other foreign language editions of the Bible, or the whole quad. They were replacing the Bible dictionary and the topical guide with the guide to the scriptures. And he knew of me because I had previously reached out to him to try to find out if Joseph Smith had anything else in regards to translations that I could work on and test my theory with. I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. And so I'm well aware of who did what in the original version. And so I know very well where Bruce R. McConkie did his work versus everyone else. Right, Ballard? I know a secret. Ballard's the reason why we don't have that version in English. You can go on to the church's website and you can look up the guide to the scriptures, but our scriptures still is not footnoted with the guide to the scriptures, even though we did the original beta version in English. We were asking, why can't we do this? And they said, well, there's certain people that haven't died yet. We don't want to disrespect their memory. Well, we should, because they did a crappy job. There are tons of errors. And Bruce R. McConkie, yeah, he made errors too, but it's a clear, distinct difference in quality. You just go through Isaiah. Just start at the beginning of Isaiah. Go through all of the footnotes. Do it for scripture study. You do that, don't you? And test it for yourself. And then you'll eventually find, wait a minute, what? What is this? What are they doing? You can see the difference between Bruce R. McConkie and regular Mormons. Right, Ballard? Oh, dear God. And yet they elevate them to teach their false doctrines to the world. And yeah, many of the original group, because they leaked that they were involved in that project, were put in prominent positions of career fields, mostly at BYU. But then did speaking tours and became popular and published books about their false doctrines. And Mormons adopted them and said, oh wow, we now know secrets. No, you don't. You got lied to. You're cheating on not studying your scriptures when you read authors' books. I mean, just Cleon Skousen, for example. Have you ever read his series on the 1,000-year stuff? Yeah, he just plagiarized the Bible. That's all he did. And James E. Talmage, you think he's smart because he uses big words that you have to use a dictionary for? Yeah, he just plagiarized too. Just replaced big words in there. Dumb. So yeah, I had no problem reading Talmage's books, Articles of Faith and Jesus the Christ. Plagiarism all. You know, the Paul H. Dunn syndrome for scriptures. You do know Paul H. Dunn, don't you? Is this just the older generation that knows him? Yeah, I was the greatest baseball player ever. And there was this one time. And so, in the Joseph Smith history, to get back on topic, verse 40, because this is the bicentennial year, and it's almost finished now, and still nothing happened. What happened to the abomination of desolation, Nelson? Where is that? What happened? We've been paying our tithing. We're supposed to be protected. Where is it? Is that the protection? It's not going to happen? Mormons have been faithful paying their tithing, so it didn't happen. You'll notice that they refer to the 3rd chapter of Acts, 22nd and 23rd verses, as they should. But they also include Deuteronomy 18, 15 through 19, which they should, because that's what is supposed to have been put in there. Joseph Smith tells us, hey, he's quoting prophecies from the Old Testament, but for this one prophecy of the latter days. Is this complicated to understand? Joseph Smith is told, these scriptures that I'm now giving you are for the latter days. Not Roman period, the latter days. Is that complicated? Apparently it is, and the footnotes help make it complicated. Because this is the power we had to control your minds with what we put in and what we don't put in. And so, Deuteronomy, Joseph is telling us, by going to Acts, is a prophecy for the latter days, not the Roman period time. And you're going, yeah, so? You're not even reading it. Joseph goes on to say, he said that that prophet was Christ. The day had not yet come when Mormons who would not hear his voice So there's a missing scripture that could have, should have, and didn't get put in. Bruce R. McConkie knew of it. 2 Nephi chapter 3 verse 5. And halfway in the middle, talking about Joseph of Egypt seeing our day. It's Lehi talking to his son Joseph, thus Joseph of Egypt, talking about Joseph Jr. in the latter days, but it says that there's another guy, a Messiah, who should be made manifest, physical five senses, born and raised, just like Deuteronomy, patterns, that's what you look for. See these original footnoting crew? They were all given Strong's Concordance of the Bible to assist them in, a word. Let's look through the Strong's Concordance of the Bible to see if there's any other words that we can footnote. That was the quality of their education. So yeah, I had, because of my course curriculum, got a Strong's Concordance of the Bible, but because of my abilities, I never needed it. And so in the West Valley apartment, if you saw, you may have heard a video in which I say that I only use it as a little stand for my computer monitor. I have no need for it, but I have it just in case. Even Blue Letter Bible, that I often refer to online for the Hebrew and Greek texts, as a quicker reference. They have Strong's Concordance also with it, but worthless. Once you know Biblical Hebrew and Greek, worthless. And when I was doing this, I had already devoweled Brown, Driver, and Briggs's Hebrew English lexicon and was using that as my dictionary reference for Hebrew words. But they didn't want me to do that. I had previously, before being asked, among the many tasks that I gave myself and overburdened myself with, was to go through and redo all the footnotes anyway. So it was like the perfect assignment for me. Finally, I get to do what I was wanting to do. And so it was a perfect fit for me. But, right there in the Book of Mormon, the keystone of Mormonism, our Messiah in the learning of the Jews, thus the latter-day Messiah will be manifest, which means born and raised in the latter days. Because that's what Deuteronomy says, I will raise up. So Joseph Smith is now saying, hey, Mormons, it's you guys. And in the latter days, a Messiah will be born and raised among you to be your Christ, like Moses. And so he goes on to explain further about that. And then another connection that they refuse to make the connection with, to purposely keep you in the dark, is who the Christ is. That he is Mormon. First one, we'll go to section 107, verse 91 and 92. And this is what I didn't understand why everybody was so upset with me. But now no. And again, the duty of the president, that's Joseph Smith. Don't impose Nelson here. That would be an anachronism. This is Joseph Smith writing this. And Joseph Smith says, again, my duty as president of the office of the high priesthood is to preside over the whole church and to be like unto Moses, not Peter. The key of the president of the church is the key of Moses. To be a seer, revelator, translator, and prophet, having all the gifts of God. Did you catch that? And so then we can go to section 110, Kirtland Temple, confirming what I just told you. And verse 11. After this vision closed of Jehovah, not Jesus. Jehovah is not Jesus. Different Hebrew names. After this vision closed, the heavens were again opened unto us, and Moses appeared, and committed unto us the keys of what? The first presidency. A man like Moses. To do what? To lead Mormons in an exodus out of the great and abominable church to Zion. Joseph Smith has to get them first as the forerunning Christ of Mormonism. Yeah, this isn't non-Trinitarian Christianity or Trinitarian Christianity, is it? This is Jewish Christianity. Or shall we say Messianism. And so yes, the keys of the gathering. This isn't the keys of missionary work. This isn't preaching the Book of Mormon. That's Peter's keys. That's way down on the list. That was given in the beginning after John the Baptist. Not complicated, but it requires footnoters to do their job, because you guys don't have the gifts of footnoting. So verse 16 of section 103, here he is, talking about the latter days and the redemption of Zion. Joseph Smith says, therefore, I will raise up. There it is, Deuteronomy. Why didn't they footnote this? They footnote to section 107 verse 91, and section 107 verse 91 refers to this, but they're isolated from Joseph Smith history, verse 40, Acts chapter 3, 22 and 23, and Deuteronomy 18, 15 through 19. They will not make the connection. Because Joseph Smith said, hey, it's the learning of the Jews, he's our Christ. I will raise up unto Mormons in the latter days a man who shall lead you like as Moses. And so the majority of you only know of section 85, verse 7. And it shall come to pass that I, the Lord, will send one mighty and strong. And so, yeah, there's some nutcases who think they're him. You don't have the right name. There's a reason why they're prophecies, is that the fulfillment of the prophecies actually are the fulfillment of the prophecies. They can't create the fulfillment. Right, Brian David Mitchell? Dumbass. experiencing some technical difficulties at the moment. Gotta wait for it to pass over. Okay. All right. So we're all clear. You're looking for a translator. For the latter days, he'll also be a seer. He'll also be a revelator. He'll also be a prophet. And thus, we'll also have the keys of Nephi, because it's not Moroni. 27 verse 5, sections 27. With Nephi, not Moroni, whom I have sent unto you to reveal the Book of Mormon. Because the Joseph Smith history was published by Joseph Smith. He put Nephi, Joseph Smith Papers, authoritative source. So that corrects section 27 from the 1835 and I think even the 1833 Book of Commandments. It was an error in both of those. And so Joseph Smith is correcting it in 1838. He published it. He made sure that that's the way it was. And Willard Richards changed it after Joseph died. So understand this was not the right name of the Church of Jesus Christ. No. That's the Great and Abominable Church, in case you didn't catch on from verse 19 in the Joseph Smith history. And so it's the key of Nephi, of whom the record of the stick of Ephraim, and Joseph is specifically referring to Ezekiel chapter 37 and the prophecy to combine the stick of Judah with the stick of Joseph, which his son Ephraim, who usurped the birthright and blessing from his brother Manasseh. There's a whole bunch of usurpations of the birthright and blessing in Genesis. That's a pattern. I wonder if it means anything. Yippers. And so, yes, I have that key too. Not supposed to. And so, before I was assigned to work on the footnotes and correct Bruce R. McConkey's work, though they didn't like us to, and there was a lot of rejection because Bruce and Ballard were involved. I had, like I said, gone around trying to find people who knew of anything else by Joseph Smith. I had known about the temple, Pele El, mouth to God, direct literal translation, which John Taylor was responsible for that, not Joseph. And so it obviously, for those of us who are old enough to remember that, oh God, hear the words of my mouth. So not quite. That's on the other side of the spectrum of translation to make that. And because of the numerous translations of the Bible, this is why they have a spectrum of translations. To me, I'm kind of rigid on this. A one word has translation meaning. And I'd come out to find out that volumes of books meaning for each word. But this key is what I had found out, and I know when I got it, when I made the discovery that the Genesis stories came from Egyptian documents. Ta-da! There's the key. I did it. And I would go on to fulfill and demonstrate the manifested key of combining the stick of Ephraim with the stick of Judah. That's what it means. It's not the Book of Mormon. which says by Lehi, it's not it. Dear God, how do people miss that? But yeah, again, still, it's in the record of Nephi that we learn about the stick of Ephraim from Ezekiel 37. And still, the church went and changed Nephi to Moroni because of the error here. And so, as I was going around, yeah, I went to farms and the big scandal there, humiliating John DeVetness at his own lecture. But also, I had made contact with President Hinckley's secretary, F. Michael Watson. F. Michael Watson is now in emeritus status since 2013. He was only a secretary. That's as far as his abilities went. He was never in a leadership position other than for maybe the 5 years remaining after Monson booted him out of being a secretary for all his life. He's a Vietnam vet, and and so you can see that rigid structure of authoritarianism in him because of his military service. There are other ways to fight battles. You don't need to take away men's agency to do it. And I had written a letter saying, hey, I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. Is there anything else that Joseph Smith had done that I can work on to test my theory? And he wrote back and said, I have been authorized to handle this matter. His military structure. I came to find out it was only because he's the secretary, not that he was actually contacted by Hinckley and said, oh, okay, yeah, you deal with this. Yeah, great. No. Yeah, he intervened. And wrote me back saying, I consulted my bestest buddies at BYU on this matter, and they told me, and he rambles off the traditional theory of Paleo-Hebrew, or Biblical Hebrew. I already knew that. He was wasting my time. And what he was actually saying was, Joseph Smith is not a translator. Joseph Smith is wrong, because that's what you do when you say that this is the translation of how to translate the King Follett Discourse. Joseph Smith says the biblical Hebrew text is wrong. So why would he go to Hebrew scholars at BYU and they then tell him, for him to tell me that this is biblical Hebrew, this is the way it is? Yeah. John DeVetness, John Gee, Daniel Peterson, they all believe Joseph Smith is a fraud. Yeah, I said it. Own it, guys. Quit fooling around and lying to Mormons. You believe Joseph Smith is a fraud. John Gee, by the way, in case you didn't realize, is the one responsible for saying Joseph Smith is a fraud. The whole Gospel Topics essay, Historicity and Translation of the Book of Abraham. That's John Gee. It's right there. Joseph Smith is a fraud. No, he's not. I am a translator. What you do is you realize, hey, Biblical Hebrew, when was that created? 800 to 1000 CE. What did they do? They took the original document, which the closest match is the Dead Sea Scrolls version. And Emmanuel Tove, he did a whole book on the different comparisons of the documents, showing which differences there are. Excellent book, I highly recommend it. In which they changed the script from Paleo-Hebrew to Aramaic. Then they turned, like the Greeks did, some of the consonantal letters into vowels and threw in those letters into certain words. Then they went even further to tamper with the jot and tittle of the text, which they are ordered not to, and put in vowel points. And then the Masoretic text also has some other stuff involved with it as well. But that's basically what they did. And by adding all this stuff in, they forced the translation to one and only one correct translation of the biblical Hebrew text. And it's not the Septuagint translation. And the Jewish Publication Society holds the exclusive rights to it, and you have to purchase the book. They won't allow you to see it online. And so that needs to be understood. That's the tradition. And so knowing this, it's very clear. In order to find out if Joseph Smith is correct, I need to get rid of all that crap and go right back to the original source document, the Dead Sea Scrolls that we have. And so that's what I did. That's why I devoweled Brown Driver Briggs's Hebrew English Lexicon, was to get back to the original. And part of my theory testing was to use the devoweled vocabulary to run tests for 2-letter combinations of the 3-letter words to test my theory. And so the theory being that each script letter corresponds with an Egyptian hieroglyph that is different from, dear God, William Foxwell Albright's atrocity, abomination, because he couldn't figure it out, and so Sir Alan Gardner suggested to rig it all up, create a decipherment. That's basically what he did, because it has no basis in reality. It's the acronym theory, that each letter of the Hebrew alphabet has a name. Section 119 of Psalm, or section 119 Psalm, shows each of the Aramaic script letters of the Hebrew alphabet, Aramaic alphabet technically, and their Aramaic phonemes. And so they begin with a letter, obviously, and that is used as the picture for the word. And it's technically Babylonian Semitic Hebrew. It is not Paleo Hebrew. And I know it gets kind of complicated if you don't know the particulars. And so just understand William Foxwell Albright's decipherment theory, which was a little pamphlet, is crap. I did a whole research paper on it. Every single letter is wrong. It does not match at all. Dear God. I mean, just for example, the traditional belief, because of him, is that Aleph, A, is an ox head. Well, first of all, Aleph is not an ox head. It's an ox. It's also 1,000, depending on which language got corrupted into the language. And that's another problem that he refuses to acknowledge, because that's what the Masoretes did with the biblical Hebrew text. They had so much merging of other languages into the language that Paleo-Hebrew was extinct. And so you can see, if you learn it, that there are words that are given a different translation depending on where they're located in the text. Because they purposely didn't know the translation. They were creating a translation and fixed it into one and only one translation, and thus Elohim became the singular majesty, which was Constantine. 3 in 1, Trinity, not real, by definition. And so Constantine destroyed the Jews and fooled Islam. Notice Islam claims to be a man like Moses. Do Islamists know this? He's supposed to be for the latter days. Oops, 600 CE is the wrong time period. But they still have imams. But nonetheless, we get to each letter having assigned a meaning from Egyptian hieroglyphs, which is pictorially matched but ideographically connected. That ideographic meaning is what creates volumes of translation rather than just a one-word translation. And so when you combine letters of the alphabet together, you increase exponentially the amount of meaning for the word. And I was just running the test to see if I can isolate the original meaning from the corrupted mutt language that had become what Brown, Driver, and Briggs was putting in for their lexicon. And yeah, I did. I isolated Paleo-Hebrew from Aramaic, from Babylonian Semitic Hebrew, and Greek, etc. But without doing that test, wouldn't have been able to do that. And so, yeah, my dad destroyed the translation stuff on that, so it has to be redone, but I published it anyway with the key to fix the problem. But it's a lot of extra work for people if they do get the stuff. But I haven't posted it on academia.edu because I haven't fixed it all yet. It's too much work. And so, there you have it. My one-on-one with F. Michael Watson, as he then went to my stake president to try to get me excommunicated. Because it's weird. It's not ironic, really. It's just weird. Because they know of the prophecies. They purposely didn't put them in the footnotes. And so here I come. Hey, I just deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. Joseph Smith is correct. Here's the corrected translation of Genesis. And I'm working on the key of the stick of Ephraim and Judah. Church is true, right? Nope. Get him! Kill him! Excommunicate him! So yeah, that's what F. Michael Watson did. He contacted my stake president and said, he's a troublemaker, get him! And so I was interrogated by the whole stake presidency and the whole bishopric. all crammed into that little room in the singles ward. The younger singles ward that I was in at the time, thanks to the divorce, because I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. And she said, my kids will not learn Hebrew. And so, yeah. Attacked by my own Mormons because I fulfilled prophecy. I was in their midst and they didn't care. They wanted me dead. Burn the witch. Joseph Smith is not true. Spiritual witness says so. And so, the stake president said that President Hinckley is doing this. I have no choice. You know, who have you been telling about this? We need names. We're going to get them all. And I said, it was F. Michael Watson. Hinckley doesn't know anything about this. And they all shocked. The stake president said, I'm going to go find out what's going on here. I'm going to see him personally. He never showed, never responded. It was his second counselor who I met one day and told me that, well, you're allowed to continue your research, but don't go against the church. I'm not. I'm fulfilling prophecy. Yep. Such has been my life. And so, the second ex, who cut my hair and betrayed me, and we were sealed in the Philistine Temple, room number 13, and had our wedding supper feast at the Lion House next to the Beehive House. She likewise bailed because she couldn't handle the latter days. It was too much for her to handle. So I'm all alone. Nobody loves me. Everybody hates me. They want to just kill me off and murder me. That's Mormons for you. They claim they believe the church is true, but it can't be true. Otherwise, we'll murder you. It's sad. Dear God.